your first things first. We're joined by former Super Bowl champ Chris Kenny. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jenna.
Great to have you.
See you. Great to be in. Merry
Enjoying your
Christmas.
holiday?
Happy holidays to everybody.
All of it.
No, it was a great holiday.
Good.
Family came in town. We didn't actually have Christmas until yesterday. My nephews finally got in town, and so that was fun. We all opened the gifts together. It was really nice.
In jail or something? A little travel delay?
Come on, CC. We had some moving parts. We had some moving parts, but they showed up. That was the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing. It felt like Christmas when the kids got there.
Well, you know what?
When the kids got
Merry
there.
Christmas then to the Cannies, who are just now realizing it is actually a few days past
So much shade, Jenna.
Time for a Subway choice moment. Canny, a little deja vu all over again in Philly. Nick Foles has stepped in for an injured Carson Wentz and won his last 2 games to keep the Eagles' playoff hopes alive. That was my script last year. That's my script this year. With players building shrines to Nick Foles in their lockers, Foles getting the start in the season finale Sunday, Doug Pederson could have a quarterback conundrum on his hands if the Eagles sneak into the playoffs. But the head coach told Carson Wentz that he has no need to worry.
I mean, he understands. He knows the situation he's in. He's trying to get healthy, and but at the same time, I want him to understand that, hey, he's our guy. He's the guy we drafted, and moving forward, he's our quarterback, and I don't have to sit there and keep encouraging. He knows that, and so. But we do have conversation, and I try to encourage him the best I can.
Chris Kenny, is there anything Nick Foles can do to grab that starting job from Carson Wentz at this point?
Well, long term, no. I think Doug Pederson is absolutely right. The organization has way too much invested in Carson Wentz to decide that he's not going to be their franchise guy for the future. Now, what I will say is this. He's their franchise guy for right now. Based on the way that this team is playing.
He being Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. That's what I'm saying. Nick
Foles
is their franchise guy right now, just the way that this team has been playing the last couple of weeks. And you saw it again this past week against Houston. I mean, just the way that he was able to perform, throwing for 471 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, you saw their offense be able to sustain drives. You just saw overall energy raised to another level with this team. And I think that's the most impressive part about what Nick Foles has been able to do. It's not necessarily from the X's and O's standpoint, but what I'm seeing in terms of overall play of the team. And so I think this team is starting to build some momentum. And if they just so happen to be able to get into the postseason, if they can take care of their business on the road in the division against the Redskins, and somehow, some way, Minnesota stumbles against the Chicago Bears, I mean, this is a dangerous Philadelphia Eagles team because they did it before. They've got the confidence that they can perform in the postseason. So I just look at this Nick Foles situation and say he's probably the guy that needs to be under center for the Eagles right now.
He is definitely going to be the guy under center right now, and I think this is very simple. I don't think it's complicated. I think that Carson Wentz is the starting quarterback for Philadelphia, first game of 2019, unless Philly goes to the Super Bowl again. And at this point, I don't think you can say it's impossible. I think it's highly unlikely. But if Nick Foles, if they win this weekend, and I don't think it'd take a big Minnesota stumble to lose to a Bears team that looks like they're going to play their guys. They said yesterday they're going to play their guys. The Bears are better than them, and the Bears theoretically are playing for a 2 seed.
2 seed if the Rams lose, yeah.
So it doesn't take a bunch of events for the Eagles to get into the playoffs. If they get in, they'll be the 6th seed. They will have no home games. If Nick Foles wins 3 consecutive road playoff games to get back to a Super Bowl.
And that would be what, the Bears, the Saints, and the Rams?
Most likely.
Yeah.
It was some combination of that. Then I don't know that Doug Pederson knows who his quarterback is. If anything else happens, he does know. It's Carson Wentz. If they don't get in, if they get in and they lose in the first round, if they get in and they win a playoff game and lose in the second round, then as soon as Nick Foles loses a playoff game, a lot of this shine goes away, and you start thinking more logically. But if this run continues and the Eagles, as a 6th seed, go to the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, a team that looked like they were dead in the water, were 6-7 when he took over, and if they win 6 straight games, including 3 road playoff games, then it's a conversation this offseason. Then Howie Roseman is absolutely fielding calls about Carson Wentz. Now, I don't think it's going to come to that because I think it's...
If all that happens, you're going to lose all your wishes for the rest of your life. I wish this, I wish this, I wish. Let me tell you what. If Carson Wentz, in the next month, if he's healthy, and he passes, if he can pass a physical, if he can pass an x-ray, he don't have broken bones in his back, he's going to be in the lineup. It's just a matter of NFL. This guy is better than that guy. And you guys, we've seen the last couple games, the team has played so much better around him. Let me tell you what the Eagles organization, I got tired of telling people this last year. You practice more in the NFL than you play in games. So we as players know who are the best players because we see them in practice. Nick Foles, one of the reasons why you're a backup in the NFL is why can't he? Because you're inconsistent. That's what backup quarterbacks are. If he wanted to make if he wanted to really make a push for this job, when they started to sue,
He went 1-1.
Okay, but how did he play?
He played well in their loss and poorly in their win.
Okay, and that's the story of Nick Foles. Let's not get carried away about it, all right? Carson Wentz, when he's healthy, he is the starter for Philadelphia. Nick Foles, his inconsistency speaks for itself.
Why can't you, I'm just curious, why can't you just go with the hot hand when it comes to, because we talk about how important momentum is.
Well, that's what I want to make sure I understand. See, if you're saying that if the Eagles get in and they win in the first round, they upset the Bears, and then Wentz is cleared, you think they would bench Foles for Wentz?
He's not benching him. Carson Wentz got a broken bone in his back.
I'm sorry. You think they would go back to Wentz if they had won a playoff game? You think they could go back to Wentz this year?
Yes, absolutely. I would. I would because he's better than.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think Carson Wentz overall has a better skill set than Nick Foles, but I think that Nick Foles has gotten his team to respond, and that's undeniable.
Yeah, well, how many games has Darren Sproles played with them? How many games this year?
Both.
Right.
He's played both.
How many games did he play with Carson Wentz? Because he makes a different lineup. What about the offensive line play? Jason Pederson, left tackle. Right. The left tackle play has been suspect. Lane is playing better now at the right tackle. The defensive rush is starting to come. What about that secondary that was dead? What if the defensive back that reads Amari Cooper's route
Picks it and goes?
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone disagrees with that, and I want to make this very clear. I am not predicting that the Eagles are going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm not predicting that they're going to make a playoff game.
Yeah.
But let me ask, I want to ask you the same question I asked Chris. The scenario he laid out, which is let the Eagles make if the Eagles make the playoffs and if they win a playoff game, and that week Carson Wentz is cleared, full go. You're Doug Pederson. Do you make the quarterback change?
I think it'd be hard to justify that just based on what Nick Foles would have done to that point. And so going on the road and actually winning a playoff game, I mean, that says something. And that's coming off of what he did last year in the postseason. Now, I'm with you. I don't think...
You guys keep saying what he did. What about the rest of the team? Like, are we missing this? Like, is it all of a sudden turned into golf? Is this tennis?
No, but see, I will say this, man. When you're in the locker room with those guys, and you know this, when you have a guy under center that you believe gives you a chance just based on the way that he's playing, then you'll roll with him. Now,
Yeah,
I'm not
you're
saying...
a defensive player.
Yeah.
You think that way. I'm a wide receiver. I'm going with the most talented guy because I know better. And I know how all the components. If I don't support him with a running game, which, look at Nick Foles. Look at their play distribution when they win and when he plays well compared to Carson Wentz and the lack of support that he's gotten. The only thing that I like is for Doug Pederson to be more aggressive and to have Carson Wentz throw the ball down the field a little more. That's the adjustment that I would make as a wide receiver because we know who's the most talented. We know who can make the most plays.
You mentioned as a wide receiver. Do you think Alshon Jeffrey is eager for Carson Wentz to come back, or you think he's happy that Nick Foles is in there?
He knows it's not Carson Wentz's fault that he's not being directed on the routes down the field. He knows better than that.
But I will say this, the explosive plays in the offense, they just showed up in the last couple of weeks. And you saw it again against the Texans. They had 8 plays of 20 yards or more. I can't dismiss the fact that Nick Foles is a part of what we're seeing in terms of this Eagles offense being more aggressive and being more explosive.
And I want to ask you one question about something we talked about before the show, which is you talked about in the locker room. I know everyone who watches football knows Carson Wentz is a more talented quarterback.
Yes.
But in the locker room, they saw the hit we were talking about. What Jadeveon Clowney did. His helmet to the sternum, as we were talking about before the show.
Yeah.
And Nick Foles missed one play, came back and drove him down the field.
That's your job. I ain't giving you no congratulations. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, you're a football player. You're supposed to take one in the chest and come back in there when you ain't no, hey, man, thank you, congrats. Yeah, everybody's out there doing the same thing. Man, don't thank me for what I'm supposed to do. Thank me for the things I ain't supposed to do. All right? That's what you're supposed to do as a quarterback.
All right, we got to take a break. Eagles fans clearly hoping lightning strikes twice. Kenny, we'll see you a little bit later.
I hope so.
Coming up, what's the biggest motivation for Kevin Durant this offseason? Got a little Chris Broussard sighting next on First Things First.
Oh, he's back?
He is indeed.
And we ain't going to see him till 2020. We burnt all our days already.